Guys, how we doing? Ari here, your fat loss coach, founder of the Fat Loss Manifesto. For those of you who don't know me and are new to the group, I help people who have been struggling with their weight loss and are stuck and need to get unstuck and get the body they always should have had. In today's video, we're going to talk about the line of progression that you need to take to begin to get in shape and start burning up body fat, because too many people jump ahead of themselves and start overtraining and pushing themselves when their body is not quite ready yet, and that causes them to give up and ultimately feel pretty bad about themselves for not making, believing that they haven't made an effort, when in fact they have. They just were starting the fat burning process well and truly before they were ready to do so. So I'm going to run you guys through the process that I use with my clients, and this is something that you should be doing, okay? So we've got a series of steps here that I've put up on the board, and I'm going to run through these one at a time. So the first thing that we need to look at is cleaning the body. You have to remember the body is not dissimilar from a engine of some type. It has filters, it has pumps, and your heart being a pump, your liver being a filter, and basically these things need to be maintained and looked after before you put the body through strenuous work and put the body through the process of fat burning, because that is quite straining on the body. Now, if you start to attempt to burn body fat and you haven't taken care of the basics first, effectively doing a service as you would on your car, you're going to run into trouble. So the main thing we want to kick off with here is cleaning. A lot of us casually consume alcohol, eat fatty foods, and don't really take the time out to run a cleaning process through our liver and through our gut to remove any gunk that's been built up. Now, the fatty liver is a very common problem for a lot of people. You don't have to be extremely unhealthy to suffer from fatty liver. You can get it just through living a normal life by today's standards. One thing we have to remember is our ancestors did not eat the same food all the time. And what would happen is we would eat seasonally. So we would go through periods of eating meat throughout the winter, followed by lots of vegetables and fruit through hotter periods, summer periods. Now, these periods of eating tons of fruit and vegetables, which were naturally available, would serve as a means to clean out the liver and reset the gut, and would bring the gut into balance, which is a balance of the microbiome and the gut bacteria. I just put M biome up there because I ran out of room. So it's vital before you start the fat burning process that you undergo a cleaning phase. Now, this could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, depending on how you feel. We then want to go into a rebuild of the microbiome and gut bacteria, because ultimately in the gut is where you're going to be breaking down food and absorbing all your vitamins and minerals, your proteins, your carbohydrates. And if we don't have the appropriate gut bacteria, the right balance to do that, you're just going to end up clogging up your liver. You're going to end up having gut issues and health issues, and possibly face things like depression. There's a big link between the gut microbiome and depression and things like that. So rebuilding the microbiome and gut bacteria first is going to take a long way to keep you motivated. It's going to go a long way to keep you motivated to keep training. The next issue we want to look at is having desensitized or being insulin resistant. We want to sensitize the receptors on both the muscle cells and the organ cells, and we want to desensitize the receptors on the fat cells, that being the alpha receptors. I've discussed these in the past. The alpha receptors are kind of like the doors to go into the cell. They open up the cell and allow fuel in. Now, what happens as you gain body fat? Your alpha receptors on your fat cells get super sensitive. They're ready to take in tons and tons of fuel, fuel being carbs and fats, to store them away for a later date. and your muscles become desensitized or resistant. This is where a ketogenic or a low-carb diet would serve you best. You want to remove carbohydrates from your diet for approximately 3 weeks to a month and perform some low-intensity work to sensitize the muscles and get them ready to absorb fuel again and desensitize the fat cells, because the alpha receptors on the fat cells love insulin. Okay, I'm trying to say that correctly because in Australia we have a tendency to say insulin instead of insulin. Luke Lehman, if you ever see this, that's for you, buddy. Once you've gone through that phase, now, guys, we're talking about 3 weeks to a month, 3 weeks to a month, 3 weeks to a month. That's already 3 months. That's a 3-month program right there. We then want to move into doing a moderate intensity exercise regime, which can be weight training, some moderate intensity cardio, which we're going to introduce some targeted carbs. Now, this of course is post ketogenic or low carb. What does targeted carb mean? It basically means that you want to take the amount of carbohydrates you would be having in your diet for the day and have them just before and just after that training session, or during that training session as well. Okay, so that's going to be enough to fuel your workout and refuel the muscles and allow them to recover. Once we develop a certain amount of fitness here, we're then going to shift into a high intensity workout regime. Now, we're looking at 3 weeks to a month. In this stage, you'll be increasing the amounts of weight you're lifting and the volume. And then we're going to follow up with a high intensity month, which will probably be a big jump up in volume as well, big jump up in weights, introduce some new exercises. In this stage, it's actually okay to have a high amount of carbohydrate, but preferably targeted. I just wrote TRG there because, TARG because I can never read, targeted carbs. So what does that mean? If you're extremely lean by this stage, you can pretty much introduce carbs all day long. If you've still got a bit of body fat on you, you want to retain those carbohydrates just to before and after your workout, okay? So high intensity work will need a high amount of carbohydrate to fuel that work. This is a system of cycling nutrients in your exercise. Once you get to this stage, you've got to make a decision. Do I need to lose more body fat? Yes or no? Go back here and repeat. The reason why I want you to go back to a cleaning phase is the increase in proteins and fats and carbohydrates coming down, as opposed to, this will be fruit and vegetable, I'll cover that in a minute. The increase in proteins and fats does strain the kidneys, the liver, if you're not an experienced athlete. If you're not a well-trained athlete, you don't have many years of training experience. So if you're a newbie and you haven't really pushed yourself for years and years and years and developed the capacity, these things will slowly strain your organs, and you want to take time to clean, rebuild, reassess, resensitize, go through the phases again. This will also allow your neural system to recover. It will give you time to allow any joints to recover and repair, also prevent injury from happening. And that's another big thing that we need to look at here as well. So how do we do this? What are we looking at food-wise? Juices. Juices are fantastic, preferably vegetable juices. You don't want to go too hard on the fruit because there's a high amount of fructose in them. Carrot, beetroot, apple, a little bit of apple is good. You want to be doing this first thing in the morning. And I know it's been done information-wise. It's old news, but it does work. Okay, it's not something brand new. On an empty stomach, getting up in the morning and having a fresh vegetable juice will clean the organs out. Lemon juice in water, standard. Apple cider vinegar, yes, absolutely. We want to make sure that we clean the liver first and foremost. The reason for that is the liver burns 30% of all fuel in your body. Now, if you've got this giant organ, it's going to burn up a lot of calories and it's sluggish. What's going to happen to your metabolic rate? It's going to dive, it's going to drop, okay? So you want to make sure that this organ, this massive organ, is working to peak capacity. The moment it gets sluggish, you're not going to be burning as many calories, and you want to keep up the metabolism as much as humanly possible. So fruits and vegetables, get off the wheat, cut wheat out of your diet, because it does tend to upset the balance of the microbiome in the stomach. It does cause inflammation. Gluten, there's no need to even talk about that. Gluten, a lot of people have gluten intolerance. The next part here is we want to start rebuilding. A lot of fermented foods, kimchi, fermented. I just right now can't remember any other fermented foods but kimchi. I don't know why. So anything fermented, pickles, things like that, they're fantastic for rebuilding the gut bacteria. You can also take a supplement. If you know of a reputable brand that you prefer, absolutely take that. Ketogenic diet, we want to stick to 30% protein, 70% fat, or possibly 20% protein, 80% fat. Now, when I say 80% fat, I mean in terms of calories. I don't mean in terms of volume. So you're not going to have 30 grams of meat or 20 grams of meat and 80 grams of fat, because the calorie values will be way out. So you want to be having 30% of your dietary calories coming from, or 20% of your dietary calories coming from protein, 70 to 80% coming from fat. So on a 2,000 calorie diet, that would look like 400 to 600 calories from protein, which is approximately 100 to 150 grams of meat a day, okay? And then, no, sorry, I lied, it's not 100, 150 grams of meat. I'll get back to you on the calculation for that. And the rest of the calories have to come from a fat source. That can be coconut oil, it can be avocado, it can be nuts and seeds. Now, a 20-80 split is closer to a therapeutic ketogenic diet, which tends to cleanse the body and repair. You're probably better sticking with that, unless you're doing a lot of heavy weight training where you want to step it up a bit. At this stage, you probably want to be doing a lot of cardio, low intensity cardio, and just walking. That'll be fantastic to resensitize these receptors. And doing full body workouts. So workouts with 20 repetitions per exercise, 3 sets of 20 for each body part. So what that means is 3 sets of squats at 20 repetitions, 3 sets of deadlifts, 3 sets of push-ups, 20 repetitions, and 3 sets of chin-ups or some kind of back work. Now, you don't have to do full push-ups if you're a beginner. By all means, do them against the wall, do them on your knees. Otherwise, your option is to get into a gym, use dumbbells and things like that. Moderate intensity exercise, we're now talking about increasing the weight. Here, the targeted carbs, you might want to look at a supplement that you can drink during your training. Okay, so a carbohydrate powder would be fantastic for this. Otherwise, juices do work. Carrot juice is a fantastic way to buffer a lot of the acids that you build up in your body when you're training. So the only question is making sure you're getting the right amount of carbohydrates that you need. If you do need help with that, shoot me a message below. I'll get in touch with you and we can work out what your needs are. High intensity, which will be probably around about month 5, month 6, depending on how you're working. Right about here, we can introduce a lot of pre and post workout high carbohydrate meals and intra-workout carbohydrates, which would have to be a liquid while you're training. You don't want to be eating while you're training. Reason being, the stomach takes up about 50% of the blood out of the body when it's trying to digest food, and you need that blood going to your muscles. It's the reason why we cramp up. We're not supposed to swim directly after eating. Your muscles can cramp up because all the blood is in the stomach digesting food. So this is how, once again, how we cycle nutrients. So we're starting with a lot of fruit and vegetables, a lot of fermented foods, shifting into fats and proteins, introducing carbohydrates again. Now high-loading carbohydrates, massive amounts of carbs, back to rebalancing, and it goes on and on and on. You can set this up as a 6-month plan as well, if you like, and then you can do it twice a year. What this means is your body remains clean, all the organs remain functioning very well, nothing gets clogged up, nothing gets overtaxed. Your central nervous system doesn't get overtaxed, you don't get fatigue. and you can recover, you can keep going. The name of the game here is endurance, longevity in your training. It's not get in for 12 weeks and absolutely slaughter yourself and never work out again, okay? Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you've had a fantastic week. Once again, if you've got any questions, post them below. If you need help with anything, by all means, post below and I will jump in here and help you guys straight away. Until next week, have a fantastic week and I'll talk to you soon.